Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So, this video is about the war in Ukraine. It is not going well for the Russians at all. If you look at the thumbnail, we have approximately 250,000 Russian soldiers killed in Ukraine. And that's a estimate from the Defense of Ukraine. So this is a screenshot from just 6 hours ago. Total combat loss of the enemy from February 24th, 2022 to August 18th, 2023. That's today. Time of recording to 27 p.m. So, as of a couple hours ago, it is estimated that the Russians have, whether that's Russian soldiers, whether that's Wagner mercenaries, whether that's DPR, LPR fighters, basically 256,510 eliminated personnel. And 4,000 tanks, 8,000 armored combat vehicles, and over 5,000 pieces of artillery. It is not going well at all for the Russians. 250,000 dead. That's crazy. Because if we look at the Soviet-Afghan War of the 1980s, you'll look and see that in terms of, casualties, roughly 15,000-ish to about 26,000-ish were killed. 50,000 wounded, a handful of, tens of thousands injured, but Soviet-Afghan War, they only lost anywhere from 15 to 25,000 soldiers. The war in Ukraine, they've lost 250,000. So if 25,000 was a rough estimate for the Soviet losses in Afghanistan, then the Russian losses in Ukraine are a factor of 8 or 9 or even 10 times higher than those losses sustained in the war in Afghanistan. So we're going to go over to deepstatemap.com. There's not a whole lot of movement in the line. If we zoom in, much of the front over here in the, my Wi-Fi's acting up on me. There we go. Much of this part of the front has stabilized. There is movement on the south bank of the Dnipro River. There has been reports that Ukrainian forces have landed in Oleshki. I'm not entirely sure if that's verified or not, but I think they have. So they're trying to build a bridgehead here on the south bank, or of the Dnipro River. Because if you cut this road off, then it's unlikely to get resupplies from Crimea through this way, or Crimea from this way, or reinforcements from this way. So if you get Oleshki, or you get a handful of these towns, whether it's Podizny or Sahi, you get that, and you cut that road off, and you maybe figure out how to try and control these road junctions, then you can bring forces to bear, and then you can push down either one of these two roads down towards the coast or down towards Crimea. And there's not a whole lot of Russian forces in this area right here, because most of the forces are concentrated from roughly here to roughly here, and then there's a whole bunch of Russian forces over here. But that part of the line has more or less stabilized ever since. There's a lot of fighting along the front from the Dnipro River over here by Zaporizhia. A lot of fighting right here. A lot of fighting right here. Vuhledar, that was a main part of the winter fighting. But if you look at this part, first, there's been reports that there's been fighting, I think, in Vuhledin. I don't know. I don't know if it's that or if it's over here. No, Robotyne. That's the one I'm thinking of. I think that Robotyne is now under Ukrainian control. I don't think Deep State has updated it. I think they're trying to. I think they have a 48-hour agreement to not update the map due to operational security. But if you can see, there's a lot of Russian forces right here around Robotyne. Ukrainians are pushing down. The green and the blue is areas that have been retaken during the counteroffensive. Robotyne, it looks like, according to sources, that Robotyne is now under Ukrainian control. So basically what Ukrainians are doing, from the Dnieper River, all the way to Vuhledar, they're trying to push all along the line of contact, from Vuhledar to over here by Zaporizhia. Now there's a lot of success. This area, a lot of territory retaken. Staromorsk is, under control over here, taking up a lot of Russian forces. Robotyne over here, a lot of Russian forces are posturing here. If you keep pushing and poking and prodding along this point, this line of contact, then there's really a possibility if you break out here, then you can get to Tokmak, and then you can get down towards Melitopol and then potentially towards Berdyansk. Or if you somehow find a breakout over here by Vuhledar or by Staromorsk, then you can push down towards Mariupol. And that would be a very strategic and symbolic act for the Ukrainians. But it looks like there's a lot of success over here in this part of the line. There's a lot of success over here in terms of recapturing territory, really concentrating the forces over here. The Russians, you got a bulk of Russian forces here, got a bulk of Russian forces here. And the Russians haven't been doing a whole lot. There's been a lot of fighting around Bakhmut. It looks like they haven't focused on the town itself, but the Ukrainians have been focusing on the high ground around Bakhmut. So if you get the high ground around it, then you can, potentially move to cut them off from the rear if you can find ways of breaking through at that point in the line. This part is basically frozen at this point. Ukrainians are waging war in Bakhmut. Ukrainians are... I haven't heard a whole lot of things in Avdiivka. I haven't. I know that most of the focus is from Vuhledar all the way from over here, Staromorsk, Robotyne. So I think the Ukrainians are poking and prodding and trying to figure out where Russian weak points are, because if they can get past these first couple of layers of Russian defense, then they can start moving toward Tokmak or moving towards, maybe break out here and break out of Vuhledar and head towards Mariupol. Or basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to either A, Melitopol, B, Berdyansk, or C, Mariupol. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to cut off this land bridge, because the Russians, if you look at Crimea, there's only 3 ways in: the Kerch Strait and then 2 road and rail connections. You either go from Crimea towards Melitopol or Crimea towards Kherson, or you go from Russian mainland proper, from Novorossiysk over the Kerch Strait into Crimea. So the Russians either get resupplied this way through Luhansk, through Donetsk, and into this way, or through Crimea. So I think the Ukrainians, the going is tough, the going is slow, but they're making a whole lot of movement along the line, especially around Robotyne, Staromorsk, and I think they're moving towards trying to build a bridgehead in Kherson Oblast region. And there's not a whole lot of forces around here. They're all forced this way. So if there's a breakout in Kherson, then you can cut that Crimean. You can move towards the Sea of Azov from Kherson, cut off these 2 access points to Crimea, and then start targeting the Kerch Strait Bridge more, because you would then cut off these 2 points of connection. So going is slow, the going is tough, but I have faith in the Ukrainians, faith in the general staff, faith in President Zelensky, and the war's not going great for Russia. You got 250,000 dead. The Ukrainian counteroffensive is poking and prodding along the entire point of contact along the line, and if the Russians break at one point, then the Ukrainians are going to pounce. And yeah, it's just not going great for Russia. That's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.